I am gaming. I am gaming. I am gaming podcast.
Hey everybody, my name is Ivica. Thank you so much for being on the latest episode of my I Am Gaming podcast, a podcast about the video game industry, entrepreneurship and gaming nostalgia, among many more different things I see as a unified field and the same field I try to explore in every of my episodes. This is episode 41 and its topic is called the potential of conversations. Now I know this sounds a bit weird and vague, and it's not designed to. Instead, I would like to talk to you about the importance of having conversations primarily on your social media accounts or any social media account you're using for your venture, whatever it might be, a gaming channel, a game development, any and every project you might be currently working on or already have up and running. In all of those cases, having conversations on social media is and should be an integral part of your overall marketing strategy. Before we get into that, a huge thanks to all of my Patreon supporters. There are now 25 of them. All of them are super talented with many cool ventures of their own, so please check them out in the description below. I have links to every one of those ventures, YouTube channels, Twitch streams and everything else. Some even published games that you love. Please do check them all out in the description below. Now, what are conversations? Actually, conversations are precisely that. They are talks you have on different subjects on social media through the said social media setup. So for example, if you're having conversation on Twitter, you can have them on direct messages, but also in Twitter replies. If you're having conversations on Facebook, the same goes for comments. The same again applies to Discord, even YouTube channels, and any other place where you can actually reach out and talk to people who are interested in your venture on its social media presence. So it's a page or a channel or whatnot that you use for your social media. So you're not actually talking as yourself, you're mostly talking as the entity you're representing. For example, your YouTube channel, where you're talking as the author of your channel. This also applies to you personally and your personal accounts. If you're, for example, a video game designer, an indie game developer, or someone like that who has a personal social media presence, the principle remains the same in both cases. The important element is that in either case you're not actually talking to a person or again an entity that you know directly. So it's not some of your friends, your family members, your acquaintances. It's a complete stranger or a completely strange and an unknown organization that's headed by a couple of people on social media on their end. All of it makes no difference. The important thing is that you actually strike up a conversation naturally. It can be about anything you're doing inside of your venture or overall something that interests you, for example in the games. Conversations are so important because a lot of people use social media as a way of blasting out their message. That's one part of social media. But trust me, if you don't have enough clout, if you don't have enough followers, or your material isn't that interesting to everyday users, and usually it's not, even if you're a big entity like a gaming company, message likely won't get across to too many people. So that blasting out, that shotgun principle, should be one part of your social media marketing strategy. The other part should be laser focused, and that's conversations, where you actually reach out to people who are already somehow interested in the things you're doing. So for example, you have a game in development that's an indie title and someone comments on your screen share or a GIF you might put out on your social media. One thing is to say thanks, put that like on the same tweet and forget about it. The conversation ends there. But instead you have that precious opportunity to broaden the conversation and keep it going. See why the person likes it. What do they like? What do they don't like? Who are they overall? These conversations actually create bonds. They might sound weird, but these bonds are not friendships or anything like that. They can become something like that eventually, but they create a bond in the sense that the person on the other side recognizes you as a person as well. That's super important in 2020, because too many times social media management principles make the other side completely unhuman, as someone you don't want to have any interaction with. That's a problem for you if you have a small venture, even if you work inside of a big company, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your direct personal venture. It alienates people, and the principle is completely different. It should bring them towards you and make you more interesting, not only because of the things you're making, but because who you are. This doesn't include you forcefully projecting yourself as somebody who has a family or a hobby or anything like that. You don't need to shove that onto people. Instead, you simply need to represent yourself, your entity, as something who's genuinely interested in other similarly minded individuals. This creates a community. And your community, as I talked about many times on my podcast, is essential for your future success in almost any of these ventures I previously mentioned. No matter how big or small, it's still essential. For example, for my podcast, my community, or my Patreon supporters are the key element. They keep the podcast going. It doesn't matter that there are not hundreds of them. There probably will never be. This is a small podcast, but these that are here are essential for me. This applies to you, and conversations are an inlet towards that state. So wherever you get a chance to strike up a conversation, don't blow it. Do it. Invest time and effort to have an actual human conversation. Of course, if you get hundreds of these and you're super popular, this can be complicated, but you're working towards that goal. You'll bridge that gap once you get to it. To get to it, you need to have those conversations day in and day out to slowly build up more or less a following, more or less a community, but definitely a circle of people who recognize you as something more than just a random YouTube channel, a random game development, a random Discord server, or anything like that. Conversations are your direct and key connections to people you actually need for your venture to succeed. Hopefully this makes sense. Thank you so much for watching. This was all for episode 41. I hope that I managed to present my case for the importance and the potential of conversation. In any case, I would love to hear what you think, and I would love to strike up a conversation with you on this YouTube page, on this YouTube video. So leave a comment in the description below. Of course, check out my book on Amazon. It will help you avoid wasting time, hopefully. And if you're a really generous person, consider supporting me on Patreon. I would love to do that, and through it also help your venture gain a bit more publicity as well. That's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you're a first time viewer, please subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you around. Until my next episode, my name is Ivica, and have a great week. Bye bye.